Hey there, this is Erica from Ever Educating, and this channel is teaching tips, tools, ideas, and resources for new college instructors. Tomorrow kicks off a week-long free online summit in which I'm a presenter. And so I thought that in today's video, I would create a video based on the topics that will be appearing in this week's summit. If you're not already going to the Design Your Digital Classroom Summit, I have a link below in case you want to sign up for your free ticket. The way it works is that there will be videos, pre-recorded videos going live each day, and you have 24 hours to watch them once they go live, unless you pay for a ticket. The free ticket gives you 24 hours each day. There are also live Zoom calls talking about some of the major topics of the summit. And there's a power pack in case you want to get access to tools and services that the presenters put together for you. So that'll be linked below as well in case you want to get access to the power pack. That's not free, but the ticket to the summit is free. And so today, again, I'm gonna there's over 20 presentations happening, so I'm not gonna give you over 20 tips, like one based on each. It's more, again, a tip connected to the various themes of the presentations, just as a way to kind of really dive in a day early. I'll begin with my own presentation. So my presentation was inspired by a video I created a while ago about 11 different ideas for how to get students involved and engaged in the classroom. My presentation is 15 ideas for increasing student agency in the classroom. So a lot of them were inspired by that video, but then I added some more as well. So I'm not gonna have a tip connected to my own, other than you can watch that video if you want to kind of get into the spirit of things. But again, the one at the summit is even better because it has 4 additional tips. So the first one that I am gonna connect to is there are presentations on digital technology, right? Technology that can help you with time management in your classroom. And so in this case, I'm gonna recommend Trello as my favorite tool when it comes to time management. And the reason why I think this is because it really helps, like that Kanban board style, really helps for processing everything you're doing in your teaching life. So you could have a board for every course you're teaching. You could have a board for your personal life. You could have a board for the service that you're doing, a board for your research, right? And in this case, the way Trello works, if you haven't used it before, is you make different lists in different columns, and you can just move those tasks along as you complete them. So you might have, for example, the first column is a to-do list, the second one is working on, and the third one is done. And so you can just list out, okay, these are all things you need to do for this course. As that you do them, you move them to in progress. When they're complete, you move them to done. So you can kind of get a sense of where you're at currently with the semester. You can also design it in other ways. So maybe you have a column for every week. And then in that case, you add a little tab for, okay, I'm gonna do this reading this week, we're gonna do this reading this week, we're gonna do this assignment this week, this is the homework for this week. And so you can really organize it, and you can say, okay, after all spring break, move it over one column. Or actually, this week you didn't get time to this reading, let's move to the next week. So you kind of really have a flexible way of designing your class using Trello. And again, I have videos on Trello that I'll link below, but that's my top tip as far as the tool that can really help with time management. And that's a free tool for you to use. There's also presentations in relation to feedback, so receiving and giving feedback to students. And I'm gonna go ahead and do a tools tip for this one as well. I think that Pear Deck is a great way of getting anonymous feedback from your students. I've talked about this before, I'll link those videos too. But basically, right, in a nutshell, you can use Pear Deck and you could have exit cards in your class. So they can log in to the Pear Deck that you created, and it could be a really simple question. What confuses you still about today's class content? Or what did you enjoy the most about this week's class content? What would you do differently next week when we discuss X, Y, and Z? And so you can get anonymous feedback from your students and then tweak the next week's lessons or the next class period's lessons based off of that feedback. So this can be really small, like here, give me feedback on this assignment, or it can be bigger. Give me feedback on the week. Give me feedback on the unit so that we can do tweaks to what comes afterward. So again, free tool, really easy to use. Pear Deck is what I advise you to use for anonymous feedback if you want to do it digitally. There are also presentations about burnout and self-care. Again, I have videos on the self-care topic at least, and so I did want to give you a tip for burnout in this video. And I think in this case, it's really important to plan your schedule according to your energy levels. So if you're someone who knows, I'm a night owl, I have a lot of energy at night, okay, well, what kind of activities should you be doing at night related to your teaching? Is that the best time for you to grade because you really had that focus? You might hear like, oh, you should be grading in the morning because get it over with. Well, not if you're a night owl and you have the most focus at night. Or you might have, I tend to be really energized on Mondays and Tuesdays, the beginning of the week, but then once we hit hump day, my energy levels really go down. Okay, maybe you want to grade Mondays and Tuesdays because that's going to probably be the most mentally taxing of what you do in your teaching. So really getting a sense of where your energy is highest and lowest and planning what activities you do during that time. Do the ones that require more energy during your high energy times. The ones that require less energy during your low energy times. That can really help decrease the amount of burnout you feel. There are also presentations about service learning or community connection in the classroom. And so in this case, I do think that depending on what you're teaching, there's a lot of community connection that you can make in the classroom. So let's say you're teaching a business course, maybe you have them interview a local small business CEO or a manager even. Or you might have, you're teaching a marketing course. Okay, find a local business and ask them if you can market for them or create a marketing plan and get feedback from them on what you created. Or if you're teaching a literature course or a writing course, I want you to go to a library and see if maybe you could put on an event like reading to children one day. Or if you're, different ideas, right? I do think there's a lot of potential for connecting your students to the local community that they are in. And that can be great because you're serving others while also learning skills needed in your classroom. So that's an opportunity as well. It's a great topic, one that I didn't do much when I was teaching, so I'm excited for these presentations in particular during the summit. Culturally responsive teaching is also a huge topic at this week's summit. And in this case, in a literature classroom, the way I did this is I made sure that my book list was quite diverse. So in the book list that was required for the course, I made sure that we had different races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, religions, nationalities, family dynamics, etc., represented in the required readings. So in that case, there was hopefully the mirroring versus windows analogy. So mirroring, students see themselves in some of our readings, and then windows, students see through a window, into another type of existence, experience, and learning in that way as well. So in literature courses, the book list is a huge way of doing this, and that's my top tip for that. But another option, potentially if you're teaching a different type of course, is having students give their own ideas. So one thing I did is, this was still in literature classes, but I think it can apply to other ones. I had an optional discussion forum. Hey, we're going to be teaching, we're going to be learning poetry, short stories, fairy tales, novels, graphic novels, etc. in this course. Are there any short stories? Are there any fairy tales? Are there any poems that really speak to you, that you really enjoy, and that you think, we should be learning about and analyzing in the classroom? And if it connects to your particular culture, your particular experience, all the better. And then students can volunteer to submit some of those, and you can hopefully use them later on in the classroom. So I do think kind of seeing areas where you can make sure that you have a diverse representation in the types of content that students are reading or watching in your classroom. Another major topic at the summit is project-based learning. There's multiple presentations about this topic, and in this case, I think it can connect well with that community service tip that I had before. So maybe it's not just interviewing a CEO of a local company, but what problem can you solve for someone local in the community? What challenge are you going to investigate and reflect on and analyze and work on to create a product to help meet that challenge? So that might be a way of connecting to the local community as well. But if not, if you don't want to have that community element, project-based learning can still be a great way for students to do a lot of different skills in one particular project. And it can help them be more engaged because they're actually trying to solve, a real challenge in the world. So it can be a bit more concrete for them. So if this is something that is possible in your classroom, then that's definitely something I advise you to try out with your students to see if that increases engagement. And again, there are multiple presentations at the summit about this. In case you're new to it, you can learn more about it from these presenters. And I'm going to stop here, but there's other topics as well. So we covered a few of them, but there's also topics such as Google Sheets, using Google Sheets in the classroom. There's topics about English language learners and getting them more involved. There's some STEM-based ones. So again, you can go ahead and sign up for your free ticket below if that interests you. And I hope to see you there. I'll be going to the project-based learning Zoom session, so maybe I'll see you there if you attend. But again, find out more, and hopefully these tips were helpful to you, even if you don't go to the summit. I'll see you next time with a new video.